Bankers have one strategy in mind: prop up the financial system at all costs. This has been working exceptionally well. In fact, the recent highs in the stock market clearly show that these policies are excellent. However, the real economy, which many refer to as Main Street, is decaying and becoming a forgotten dream. Nearly 50 million people are on food stamps, and this statistic is simply ignored in the establishment media. Any policy brought out by governments, bankers, or the elite will undoubtedly favor themselves at your expense. There is the truth about the stock market boom and where it's headed. Let's go into so much detail today. I'm going to try to bring it out and try to keep it as brief as possible. The S&P closes above 2,000 for the first time. Now, this is an excellent opportunity for you to get your money and pour it all in there and make sure your pension fund is all that you rely on, because look at it, it's going up and up and up. In fact, if you look at the previous two cycles, you can see that it is going up more steadily, more dramatically than the previous two times here. You can also see where it's headed. They had a nice little boom coming up in the 90s, and then a crash down, and again you had the boom of the 2000s, and then a nice heavy crash down, and you can see a more exaggerated, a more pronounced increase in the stock market. And where do you think it will go? It's going to repeat itself. Let's go into some information. This happens to be from my book, but you've seen it before. The Fed funds rate brought all the way down. Now this is from approximately 1980, I believe, and you can see here at the Fed funds rate, the interest rate essentially has been going down consistently year over year. Whenever they run into any trouble, they bring it down. Now, they've been doing this consistently, and these statistics are a little bit outdated here, but you can see that specifically this has been going on, and it's not going to change anytime soon. If they do increase the rates, which they've been threatening to do, you're going to have a big disaster. You're going to have a crash in the stock market. There's no other way to put it. The reason why the stock market is continuing to rise, number one, is because they're printing trillions of dollars. It has to go somewhere. 2008, it went into commodities. Prior to that, it was going into housing. It has to go somewhere. And also the fact that the market knows that as soon as anything bad happens, the Federal Reserve is going to be there to backstop it. Let's go on very quickly, a lot to cover. The retail trader lockout, today's market issues were worse than the flash crash. Now, this is interesting. A lot of people didn't talk about this. However, just let me briefly read this. For 39 minutes today, as we noted earlier, the U.S. stock market broke. It was talking about how 14 symbols were affected. Hundreds of stocks trade with crossed NBBOs, particularly practically eliminating the chance for retail traders to transact. Now, with all the jargon aside, basically they were unable to transact. Why? Because you're using all these computer algorithms to trade, and they break the stock market. You had the flash crash that happened not too long ago. I've covered it before, and it basically doesn't allow you to have a real stock market. It's all contrived, it's all manipulated, and our pension funds, our retirement accounts, our stocks, our livelihood is all invested in a system that is breaking. And why in the world would you have your money in there? Unprecedented food stamp enrollments top 45 million 3 years in a row. That's the statistics that I need to talk about. That's the reality of the situation. Not a stock market at 2,000. Who cares what the stock market is at when you have 45 million people on food stamps? Let's go into the stats here. In May 2011, you had 45 million individuals receiving food stamps. In May 2014, that's the most recent data, you had 46 million on food stamps. And at no point in between the two dates did the number fall below 45 million. That is a serious statistic showing you the poverty, the real poverty of the United States, of the rest of the world, because it's simply unable to pay for their food. This is the reality that the government will not show you. But let's look at this. Why? Why in the world are the banks still making profits? Well, profits from poverty, how food stamps benefit corporations. Look at this. Now, JP Morgan runs the EBT program, you could see this. Since 2004, 18 of the 24 states who contract with JP Morgan to provide welfare benefits have contracted to pay a whopping $560 million. That's the kind of profit that they're making off of the poverty. That's why they use this whole food stamp program, and they keep boosting it because profit is good, the money is good. And that's absolutely disgusting to see what they're making money, and an extreme amount at that. Print less but transfer more. This is out of the Council on Foreign Relations. You know these guys. Hillary Clinton said that they get their orders from the Council on Foreign Relations. Why central banks should give money directly to the people. If you read the article, it's pretty interesting the way they talk about it, saying, look, you got problems, you're giving money to the banks and they're just not doing anything. It's just not working. So why not print money and give it directly to the people? Now, while I do agree that is probably better in a way to give money to the people versus giving money to the banks, it doesn't solve the problem. Let's read this first. Governments must do better rather than trying to spur private sector spending through asset purchase or interest rate changes. Central banks such as the Fed should hand consumers cash directly. Now, it goes on, and you can read it for yourself. But essentially, they're making a big mistake. They're talking about printing up money just to give to the individuals so that they will spend. Now, like I said, if you just look at those two factors, you have to decide between the two. Sure, giving it directly to the people is better. At least it's not in the banker's hands. But it doesn't matter because you're creating inflation. You're not really addressing the root cause of that. And you have bankers basically making money, like in the food stamp program. They make money like that. You have the computer algorithms trading on these stocks, boosting up the stock market, creating the crashes, and all these sort of things. When you have to get to the real nitty-gritty of this, and you have to really address the root cause, it's not being taken care of right now, and printing money and giving it out, it never works. It never has. So why in the world would these individuals think that it would work now? And the fact remains is that it just won't. We need the Federal Reserve out of here. We need the central banks out of our way because they're the cause of the problem in the first place. Now, I've rambled on enough. I hope that you enjoyed this video and that you will, of course, give it a thumbs up and also comment below. I like to read your comments. I like to get the emails directly from individuals, particularly on the insiders where I reply first, and they have the first priority. And that you will also become an insider as well if you're not already. And that is basically free information, and it is at themoneygps.com. You scroll down to the bottom and you fill in your email address, and then you get occasional emails from me with short, concise info.